Alright. My body is not currently reprogrammed. Wait, that's a double negative. My body is currently in the middle of trying to kill itself because of medication being withheld. So that's pretty cool. I'm not really running 100% right now, but this is the kit that I've been waiting for because I don't even think did we ever talk about Huang Sabing on stream? I think I kind of waited because I read them and it was kind of what I expected, which is these characters aren't the realists until we see more. So I figure we can kind of chat them now that we have not the full picture, but hopefully a bigger picture. Assuming that Hera is the lead. I have not read this yet, so yeah, fingers crossed. It sounds like my expectation was correct, though. She's not Phoenix. Like, to me, Lightside Spectre made sense because the only place I would really go past this is New Republic, and the game just doesn't do that yet. Yeah. We'll see how things go. She's a support. Could matter depending on her mastery type. Stuff like dodge chance potentially in play. New defensive buff, perfect defense, a stronger combination of defense up and tenacity up. You're speaking my language. Let's fracture an enemy until all the enemies take their turn. Okay, they were playing with this with who? It was Fallen Array, alright? See, this bit is interesting to me because this is like, depending on how many more times we see this, like, CG very often gets into a mode where, like, they come up with a concept and then they play with variations on it and then they move on. If we keep seeing this, then that is like a fundamental paradigm shift that will change certain considerations. Or like, all of a sudden, a Sith Empire Trooper or some character like that where classically you just didn't care about their speed stat at all, you just slapped on more bulk. All of a sudden, the speed secondaries on those mods start to matter, and that would actually change how I farm my mod collection. I really want to keep an eye on whether or not we see this more often. But it's a cool effect. This is not me complaining, but it's just like, man, there could be a fundamental change in this game because it's so potent that all of a sudden tools like turn meter removal give you these combo pieces, give you the synergy. Interesting to see. Safety teammates when they drop a certain health thresholds. We see this a lot, and we see it in varying levels of health thresholds, and we've seen how bad they can be on, like, After is the one that I always go back to because it's like a 20% health threshold that just, like, most characters don't even get to benefit from it. Weakest link actually means something now? Well, traditionally, it wasn't a weakness at all. Traditionally, it was a benefit that you could say, okay, on my mod budget, like, this character's job is to just sit there and stay alive. And then, like, if we're talking like Sith Empire Trooper, maybe you're like, well, he could retaunt, but I need to give him tenacity or something like that. That character does not care about going fast. He has no reason to care about going fast. The only argument you could say is, well, if he uses his one special once early on, he might retaunt at a key moment. This is taking what was previously a strength and flipping it on its head. I mean, granted, you could, like, if a team is like Terminator again or whatever, then you could still run a slow character and have them just get dragged along. Right? It's just, it's cool. I think it's a good effect. Happy to see it. It adds more texture in a game that already has some pretty fucking good texture. That, yeah. Design team continues to be fun. Place a different character. I mean, we know what the inspiration is. Sure. Target the prior enemy as defeating them will remove 100% Terminator from all enemies. Okay. Perfect defense, pulling rank. Maintain 2 buffs to gain access to perfect defense. That is new. That's fun. Interesting. So it's literally like merging buffs. But It's not like, okay, I thought it was saying that she would just like have this new unique buff that was just like a combination. No, we're talking actual buff combos. Okay. I like this direction a lot. Wait, this wasn't community Q&A, was it? I mean, this is just Scott Pilgrim. Yeah, it's same actress. Yeah. She was also green in that show. Rookie Relic 5. Is there a Datacron question? Thank fuck. I did not see one. If when we make more New Republic characters, the tag makes sense to retroactively add. I mean, whether or not they're doing it for the Filoniverse shit or for Old Republic, I think it's on. Well, what do I call it? Old Republic, Old Canon, Extended Universe, Legends. It's basically the Old Republic of my eyes at this point. This to me sounds more like only a matter of time. I think the only argument against it would be that it creates dev time if it's not actively something they want to do or aren't actively interested in doing. But yeah, to me, this feels more like a when than a if. But then even if they do it, it might not even be that they like redesign it or work with that or whatever vision they have for that. Yeah, I already know that shit. Like they're not getting Spectre, he's not really in it. We kind of know why. Is he just like a pilot now? Alright, 2 specials, we knew. Unique 1, a leader. Okay. So there's 2 stakes being set here. One is, how is she? 2, the thing that comes to mind for me is Survey 3. Is there 2 meaningful Spectre squads, since she's the lead? Start a battle, Spectre allies and Zeb gain 50% max health and protection. 150 speed for 1 turn is interesting. Okay, that, I mean, effectively, that is the Inquisitorious benefit, just kind of like straight up written out, but it just falls off immediately. On the turn, Spectre allies can ignore taunts of target enemy with Exile or Fracture. The sort of each Spectre allies and Zeb's turn, they gain offense equal to 50% of their defense. I've been focusing real hard on defense secondaries that, well, boy howdy. Why is it small? Get big. I mean, whatever reason, all the decisions that I tend to make for investing in this game tend to pay off later. I just have freaky plot armor that way, that like, yeah, here you go. 4 rerolls left, 20 speed, 70% defense on an offense primary, and what else we got? Percent offense, percent defense, 60% defense. Yeah. It's been a long-term project that I'm just racking this shit up, and it seems like CG is also interested in this direction. Listen, even if you doubt what I'm saying in terms of how good this shit is, PvE side of things, not even just talking competitive, TB special missions, hard new character events, are almost entirely solved when you just slap 15% defense secondaries on characters. If it's not something that you've ever bothered working on, even just having like a 1 set to throw around can make such a fucking huge difference. It like CG has to design events for the entire spectrum of the player base, between people who don't even apply mods to people who mod normally, that the moment that you start saying, yeah, my team just has like the equivalent of like 3 or 4 extra defense sets on, they just can't design for that. It's like a cheat code. It's an I win button. It's like bringing a Datacron into a mode that doesn't have Datacrons. But the fact that we're seeing incentivizations on top of it, it's just getting better, dude. Like, this investment just keeps sweetening up. And yeah, I'm farming even more of this shit now. Just like, what let's do right now? Streamer luck abuse. Fuck. This game sucks. Anyway. Yeah. Wait, why is... the kit now invisible? Oh, because the thing says a video game. Alright, we're back. Offense equal to 50% of the defense, but there's no compromise, which I love. Because in the Datacron, it's 50% D to O is like 40%, but you make yourself squishier. This is no downside. This is just upside. This is just get fucking beefy. Okay. Enemies with Exile and off balance deal 20% less damage. So when Sabine got revealed, I actually got really concerned about off balance because I didn't understand at the time that it was just like an expose that just consumed after one hit. I actually feel that offense is a little bit weak right now, so this is a cool little bit of extra value on it. I appreciate this. Like, if anything, this creates a consideration where, like, do I care about proccing off balance? Not really. It doesn't do terribly much. But leaving it on? Right, like, when you're playing Darth Revan, sometimes you're like, okay, that person is feared right now. I'm gonna leave them be because the idea of them being feared is way better to me than increasing their cooldown. They still harm me with a basic. You might just, like, off-balance somebody and want to leave it be for the moment. So that's also cool flavor. It creates some more decision-making, which I think is a good thing. More room for skill expression. The enemy with fractures defeated. Removal of 100% TM from all. We saw that. Can't be resisted, which is important. Okay. Depends on how often fracture is being applied, I guess. I'm also not seeing conditionals for not bringing Ether on yet. That, like, maybe this could create some weird cheese setups. We'll have to see. Whenever Spectre ally deals multiple instances of damage on their turn. I mean, Hu Yang. OG Sabine with her basic doesn't count, right? I don't think she's Spectre. I don't remember where she is. I should probably scroll back up. Inflicts 6 stacks of damage over time to the target enemy for one turn. So basically, 30% health tax with the delayed release. That's also dispellable and resistible. It's kind of cute, but a little bit of flavor. Chopper, Ahsoka Tano, Fulcrum. Okay, so it'll apply for Whirlwind. Whirlwind's already a pretty strong ability, so like threatening a little bit of bleed on top is cool flavor. Chopper can't like call himself to assist or anything. First time a Spectre allies or Zeb's health is reduced to 30%. That's pretty low. They recover 50% health and protection. First time a Spectre allies or Zeb's health reaches 1%, they dispel debuffs on themselves, gain damage for one turn, take a bonus turn. Gain 100% off to the next turn. So does this imply that they're having Savior? There has to be a Savior in play here somewhere. There's no fucking shot. Like, I know that they have backup plan. Because basically the implication here is if this squad doesn't have a way to keep people alive with a Savior mechanic, this will just never happen for you. Savior if they kill someone during their bonus turn? Maybe I just haven't gone there yet. Yeah, there has to be a Savior mechanic for this to exist. And if a Savior mechanic exists, then suddenly this being so low makes sense, because you have a safety net to guarantee you getting value there. Okay. If an enemy is defeated in this turn, that ally covers 50% health and protection, otherwise that ally is defeated. Interesting. That is very much how... Well, it's not exactly how. Great Mothers did something similar with the TW Omicron, but there was no, like, berserker moment of, like, fight for your life. It was just, like, berserker, you will die in 2 to 4 turns or whatever it was, die well type shit. Huh. Bonus turn? And gain 100% offense. Wild. Man, so that, like, this is almost like a defensive version of BT1 under Afro, where you're like, with Afro, you're like, okay, that enemy's at like 20% health and has expose on. Let me bank that enemy and not kill them yet. I'll kill this other guy with BT1 so that we get Haywire and you proc that. Instead, if you're like, okay, I've got a character who's about to die, that enemy's about to die, I'll take the bonus turn, grab the kill, and then chain another character back to life or something. Interesting. I mean, if this is sort of like the factional identity they're leaning towards for New Republic, this is some tasty shit. The thing I will say is, like, there will be some matchups where this clause just doesn't line up for you. It's like, yeah, dude, this is a character that barely does damage, or even if it's a character that does good damage, the board state just isn't conducive to this, that, like, you'll wet noodle somebody and then just, like, fall over immediately. That might not feel always that good. But man, the potential scenarios that this creates is pretty cool. Unauthorized mission. At the start of each Spectre ally's turn, they gain 40% defense, but if they have exile or perfect defense until the end of their turn. Whenever a Spectre ally with perfect defense uses a special ability, they deal true damage to all enemies which can't be evaded. Usually when we see these effects, they aren't that high. It's more like arc turret levels of damage. So, I mean, it's value. But specifically, this is using a special ability on turn. Right, like, the most messed up circumstances you usually think of it are, like, Bad Batch getting a mass assist called or something like that, right? Where it's like, yeah, you're only doing 10k true damage, but we're talking about doing that in volume. In this case, it's like, I mean, unless there are some cases where, like, characters could cheat out multiple ability casts in the same turn, this isn't gonna feel that insane. It's just a little bit of cherry on top. While Spectre ally or Zeb is taunting, all other non-taunting Spectre allies and Zeb have 25% defense. Well, he can't taunt, so there must be something below. Whenever a buff is dispelled from an enemy, Spectre allies and Zeb gain turn meter. Is that per buff or just on trigger? If that's per buff, that's a little bit spicy. Wait, that opens up almost like a turn meter train. If you pick the right matchup. Balin says otherwise it is 250%. I don't remember the context for what that was responding to. Whatever enemy units have their turn meter manipulated, a random Spectre ally gains defense up and tenacity for 1 turn. So up or down per trigger? So the expectation is just that you will almost always have this, and you need to be worried about tenacity to ensure that you can get it because it's preventable. On being feared. Well, that's because of Malgus redistributing fear, I think. Oh, you're just talking about the true damage? I mean, yeah, but that's just CG being CG. That's just CG trying to make a, yeah, you instantly lose this matchup clause. Which that ironically didn't seem to matter all that much. Anyway. Whenever perfect defense expires, does expire proc on reapplication? Attackers get offense up, tanks get protection up, supports and healers gain speed up. Okay, so the payoff's not that good. It's nice, but it's not, like, a concern. While in TW, Spectre allies and Zeb have 100% counter chance of potency. Recovers health. Other Spectre allies and Zeb recover half of that amount. Whenever a Spectre ally or Zeb attacks at a turn, they remove TM. Some Spectre ally loses all their protection, they recover protection. Or Spectre allies have been stunned, they dispel them and inflict buff me, heal me for all 1 turn on all enemies. This doesn't sound that crazy to me. I'll have to see the rest of the kit. But, like, so far, we don't have, like, a Captain Rex everyone mass assists type beat here, right? Although maybe you can, like, hybridize and run Captain Rex in here to try to get it. But you still wouldn't have Hera sharing it. Huh. Or at that point, we're talking about, like, Chopper, removes turn meter. Hu Yang has a mass assist. Really, the main thing I'm kind of focused on is, like, this is kind of the Captain Rex or Malicos style anti-stun. Like, this might be nice for, like, trench type shit. It really depends on how often this is proccing. Isn't this, like, a reference to Zeb unique? But because it's not being shared, it would only be on Zeb turn that it's, like, 8% down to 4% or some shit. Oh, it's recover protection. It's not even that clause. I don't even remember where they have much healing from then. It might be in Hera. So the tags aren't in game yet. I assume it'll be up with Hera. So Ezra can heal, so it would increase Ezra. Sabine, I don't think so. She has Health Steal, but I assume this isn't counting Health Steal. It says recovers health, though. So is this teeing up, like, Sabine has 450% Health Steal? It doesn't say is healed. It says recovers health, so technically Health Steal might be in the equation that, like, perhaps she's actually sort of a pseudo-healer. It'll be a sneaky way. That would still trigger that. Yeah, this could be... CG in 2024 tends to be very sneaky. That turning Health Steal into team healing would not shock me as being something that they wanted to explore. It to me, it feels on the table right now. We'll have to see, but it's worth testing. They post the fact, I'll go ask that. Usually like somewhere down or up or around. It doesn't appear there is, but it's a holiday weekend, so you know. Yeah, that. Let's keep an eye on it, to be sure. Health Steal 50. See, his is way lower. This is very much like a Sabine thing. Again, CG is on this shit right now where they are trying to explore classes that still sit within the actual class they're given but can perform multi-role. Sabine, I would not say, is an all-out attacker. She flexes a bit in the support direction. Shit is a bit more explicit about it, but again, right? All of a sudden, this movie is about utility as well. All of a sudden, anything she does is potentially about team healing. Like, yeah. We'll have to see. Maybe I'm just assuming for no reason with no proof yet, but it definitely feels... It would explain why her health steal is so high, right? Like, people are like, is this a bug? And this is the first possible reason why I could say it actually might not be. Anyway. Was that... I don't know, the Omicron is not terrible, but I would actually have liked it a lot more if this had 100% tenacity again instead of potency. Shocker, I know. But for pretty much, like, right, you kind of want to resist dazes or stuns for the counter chance. You kind of want to resist shock or heal block for the healing effects. That it's not a bad bit of value, but again, this is like hyper matchup specific. I assume that if it's worth taking, you're just gonna like grab this and apply it to whatever matchup that it makes the most sense for, and then just try to dogpile it that way. But the moment that happens, that team just won't get posted anyway. Right? It's like people are still posting trench. It's like, okay, well, Dooku counterattacks, and they just get the shit applied to them, and it's unpleasant from there. Anyway, pulled it at 5. 2 damage to all enemies. Big question mark on how much. Remove 50% TM from all enemies with 50% or more TM. Dispel fracture from all enemies and then inflict target enemy with fracture. Here's the until every other enemy has taken 1 turn. The target enemy has no other active ally, then it falls back to classic fracture rule until she takes her next turn. Strongest allied tank taunts and gauge protection up, so that's where Zeb gains access to taunts. So I don't really know that I would say that Zeb wants to be taunting, but Zeb I think still just exists in this really weird space. We saw it with Captain Rex, and we see it again here, where Zeb as a character shines most in old Galaxy era heroes, where there weren't all that many debuffs flying around in the Phoenix squad. And Zeb could hit you with that armor ignore move, but that armor ignore requires them to not be debuffed. And so even when Captain Rex came out, Captain Rex is just like permanently keeping these debuffs out and rolling, and AoE tenacity down and offense down, and just keeps hitting you with the face with debuffs. Sabine is in the mix as applying debuffs and all this stuff that like it stops Zeb from getting to do, even from early days. Like I don't think Phoenix was good, but I felt that you always had to respect this move. When you're playing Conquest and Zeb just brutalizes someone, this is the reason why. If the target has any buffs, ignore their armor. If the target has any debuffs, the stack has 50% crit damage. But the problem is, if the target has no debuffs, this attack can't be resisted, deals double damage, deals bonus damage equal to 20% of their max health. This is the issue. Would you rather have 50% crit damage and armor ignore, or would you rather have double damage, percent max health, and armor ignore? Like, no. You remember Zeb getting big hits? He's done it in various PvE places, even when you expect Zeb to not really be much of a guy. But the problem is, we see it again here. We're just constantly debuffing them. So it's like... And also, I gotta shout out that, like, there are increasingly more teams that have an anti-heal block clause that, like, there could be situations where this Omicron literally just locks you out of a heal, or out of a matchup. Like, maybe this team beats Seer, but then all of a sudden the Malicos clause procs. I don't remember if Malicos has it in TW or not. There are some characters that are Omicron required, and some that aren't, that I've kind of lost track of which is which. But this could easily be a downside for very little upside in some matchups. Especially since it's only 1 turn. So yeah, it's really just a question, I think, of how much the TM removal matters. And then picking the right matchup for this. As cute as the Hellsteel team healing potential, I don't think it's like an Earth Shatter. It would require a situation like Railed, where it's like, oh, everyone got hit by a big amount of AoE damage at once and is also not significantly debuffed, or like an SLK swipe, but is also not dead, but also, oh god, I need to heal right now. It's a narrow spot where it actually genuinely hits. Now, if it was like Hellsteel regens the team's protection, I am saying something very different right now instead. But the fact that it has to be health is like, Which is funny, because I think they printed Fallen Ray with exactly what I'm talking about. So again, CG's like mind is in this space, but yeah, if it was protection side, I think it's way more special. Pretty sure affordability, they don't ignore a taunt, right? On their turn, but it's ignore taunt to establish a fracture. So if you're building this team for sure, you need to draft a Dispel before you go for the fracture. Or we're talking like fast chopper type shit. Which with plus 150 speed cheat to start, you can pretty easily just like cheat down some characters to put chopper on top if you need be. I think Chopper is decently fast to start, though. You saw maintains to be his finisher as a bug. It might be, but the possibility of a health steal share is what makes it make more sense. Right, like, health steal remaxing has already been kind of a thing for a few years. That, like, her doing a basic and refilling everyone's health is, like, not that crazy in 2024 Galaxy of Heroes. If it was refill protection, I'd be having a different conversation. Okay. Special one. Dispel debuffs on target Spectre ally and they gain defense up and tenacity for 2 turns. Target ally gains 10% offense and 10 speed for 1 turn. That's conservative. Additional 10% offense and 10 speed for each debuff dispelled this way. That's less conservative. Inflict blind on target enemy at the end of the next turn for 2 turns. Blind at the end of their next turn. Interesting. I mean, this is kind of flavors of, like, Thrawn Basic being a delayed ability block to try to circumvent certain setups where, like... I mean, in Thrawn's case, it was a Trojan Horse of a buff becoming an unresistible debuff. In this case, I guess it's like, if you know a cleanse is coming or something, you try to, like, delay the blind, or I don't know. It's better than nothing, but usually blind kind of feels best in response to an incoming threat rather than, like, this is much more like a planned, proactive thing. What's the cooldown? 3. Okay. Spectre allies who have defense up and tenacity up. Dispel them and gain perfect defense. Okay, so it doesn't auto combo. She has to specifically merge them together. And you can't combine. Well, no, like, I'm saying you can't have perfect defense and defense up after the fact. You're immune to it. How much defense is defense up, actually? Does that wiki page still exists? Defense up is 50%. Okay. So that is a big difference. We're 4xing. Intro. Dude, it took me a second to figure out what you meant by Throne. Yeah, they definitely could potentially be interested in it, but, like, let's see, basic, dispel, or deal physical damage to target enemy if the enemy is buffed, call another random Spectre ally to assist, and dispel buffs on the target enemy. On Hera's turn, call a random light side droid to assist. Huh. Dealing 5% more Spectre ally. It's interesting that her basic can work at a turn, so, like, I guess if you use Huyang to target a buffed enemy, her basic would reproc. I think my biggest concern reading this is that, like, perfect defense being dispellable leaves the identity a bit less rock steady, if that makes sense. Like, dispels are truly just everywhere nowadays. That's not to say that you can't put it into a matchup where it will just work. Also, let's see, for 2 turns... Yeah, I mean, 2 turns is okay enough, as long as it's not, like, 1 turn that you make it and then everyone else goes, like, 30 speed later and loses it immediately. But it's still decently short. Interesting. I keep on... Okay, it's Chopper and who? Fulcrum. I just don't have that association because she's not fucking Phoenix. Hmm. Weird to assess. It's a lot of cool texture here. I'm trying to think of like the 3v3 space right now. Like I don't like maybe Gungans or something like that. They're quick out of the gate, but you're still kind of just left with some pretty old characters in some respects. Zeb Huying? Zeb, like, I don't. Zeb just doesn't do much, is the issue. Like, he really needed a character like Captain Rex to get printed to bring his kid to life. And even then, it doesn't. It's not. He's like the 6th best Phoenix member. Actually, Ezra might be better. Right, but like, you at least like bring that constant basic to like push for stun. Right? Like, days on basic and then stun on basic. That's pretty good. But there's no like assist mechanic that I'm remembering. You just have like Huyang Mass. Like, this might be a decent enough team to use in the mid game meta, and like. Also, I'm just realizing, like, does this move even cleanse? I don't think it does. It dispels on the single target, but when you convert, oh, it does dispel them and then gain. Thank God. So you can't. You at least theoretically, unless it's like a locked buff immunity, this can't be prevented. Yeah, she's only making him taunt on a 5-turn cooldown. That's what I'm trying to like. When you see a character referenced in a kit like this is more than Afra had for Kersan, but it's not much more. Like, Kersan and Afra almost has more because at least Kersan is like a self-taunt 3-turn cooldown with this arm. Like, if I'm using Zeb and Hera, I'm trying to just like build Zeb for damage and play for the nuke and just ignore like all other aspects of his kit. So what does playing this team really look like? Because also, like, tools like Fracture matter a lot more in 3v3. Like, I know we're going to a 5v5 season, Ahsoka's coming after, but do I think this is going to matter in 5v5? I really doubt it, unless, like, legitimately, I think this is the only possible X factor of, like, you know, we'll see how fast characters like Hera are. Isn't Trapper like 183? 172. Close enough. Like, he's decently fast, right? You're 332 out of gate note. Like, you can't be slower literally if you tried, unless you just keep him at gear 11. The 150 speed is a big question mark, and the offense equal to 50% of their defense is the big question mark to me. It's entirely possible that, like, this clause alone might just be like, oh yeah, you just, like, built a hybrid Sabine and then she just blows people the fuck up. And, like, So yeah, you're just like, yeah, you're fast out of the gate, you chop or dispel the tank, and then you fracture someone, and then you explode that person, and it's just fine. It's hard to predict how the numbers will feel though. Right, you can imagine the play pattern they're going for is fast out of the gate, fracture. Pada wants to be nuke, Fulcrum nuke, which I really don't know that I'd pull Fulcrum from Seer until Ahsoka comes out, and then see how that. But pretending Seer doesn't exist, right? You're Sabine damage, you Fulcrum damage. The enemy team gets all TM removed, and then you're kind of in this scramble where they have been resets. And then the fight just plays without the +150 speed, and they're like ostensibly down a man. It's like CG trying to create a bonus round before the battle starts, or something like that. Which, like, enemy reactive mechanics kicks in, but more or less. Yeah, fundamentally, what we ended up here is we don't have the traditional damage buffs. I mean, we have like offense up on perfect defense expiry, but I mean, we're talking like we're not talking people gaining offense up until like their 4th or 5th turn. So really, like, we're used to characters being like, this lead gives 40% offense, this lead gives for damage up and offense up, and Amidala gives offense for each heal every time or protection every time. It's really hard. Like, I don't know where we land on. Because isn't the Datacron offense equal to 50% of the defense? Or wait, what's the exact verbiage? Or I forget exact. Yeah. Offense equal to 400% of their current defense, and they lose 50%. So this is like an 1/8 of this. No, not even. No, yeah, it is an 1/8. So the idea, I guess, the start of their first turn, they gain offense equal to defense. Is this just at the start of each? So the idea is you get perfect defense, and then it's like amplified. But even if you have it amplified with, also I don't know. The damage steroid here is more based on instances of damage. What, the bleed? That I really feel like whatever on that ability. It's resistible, dispellable. Very few teams will just let a character succumb to dot stack. And when I say stack, I mean like 12. That Datacron makes your... Why can't I see that? Oh, Hadi. Oh yeah, I'm getting 35 times. But this is what I'm saying, is we already have this mechanic in game. It's 8 times stronger than this effect, and I'm still kind of whatever on it. Like, it makes your character hit harder, no doubt, but it's still within kind of the bounds of normal Galaxy Heroes damage. So I'm kind of concerned at what this will actually kind of feel like. I feel like this will end up feeling... It is not like stacking per turn. It's until the end of their next turn. This actually might not be all that much. But, oh man, I just realized a big problem here. So let's say their damage isn't high enough, and the expectation or hope is that you use DOS to finish them off. But they're fractured, so they can't gain Terminator, so you literally can't cash in dot damage unless you run like Watt. I don't, certain things just aren't adding up here. For the expected play pattern, power fantasy. Like, if you had, like, Amp Bag, that it doesn't matter if they cash in or not, that you just deal damage anyway, then it's slightly different. But even then, Amp Bag effects rarely go to 5 or 10, it's usually 2% on the level 3. You've got 40% defense pen, but I don't recall. We don't have any strength mastery people, do we? Yeah, the pen values aren't that crazy here. That the only thing I'm a little bit questionable on is this says defense penetration, which is that other stat. Like, SLK is, I think, the only unit of the game that has it. What, did they take it away? Is it in-game? Well, I see it in-game at least. It just says ignores the percentage of enemy's defense, and it has a 65% value here. I think this is like one of the only characters that actually has this stat, and everyone else says 0. So if this is just saying, like, blanket, you ignore 40% of the team's armor, then it's slightly better. That's tough to say. This is something that CG doesn't historically really play with that much, but it has always been a part of the game. It's usually just been 0. Interesting. Is it just me, or does Ray look very red? Not that red Ray, the other one. Nah, I guess it's fairly normal. Yeah. Okay, so if it's the true proper defense pen, then it will be a lot meatier than if it was just like plus 40% armor pen, because they're, if it's plus 40% of each penetration type, all the characters are just like within the normal ranges that, like, you really don't care that much about pen increases for characters that aren't strength based, that have, like, 400 to start, right? You can give the average character 200% armor penetration, and they'll still be penetrating less armor or resistance than a strength attacker. They usually ballpark, 350, 400 type shit. If it's the other stat that is historically unused, then it's interesting, because it signal that CG is actually kind of interested in it now. That's really just the big question here, is if there's a world where this is just like a Zeb nuke setup, like, Zeb actually might ultimately have to try to be the carry here, which is interesting. Like, okay, is there an opener you can craft? But does Fracture count as a debuff? Armor Shred doesn't, but I think Fracture might? I feel like I knew the answers to this question at one point, but it is never really... Fracture debuff? I want to say it is. You can't apply against CBM. Yes, that's the precedent. Thank you. Yeah. So literally just the act of fracturing an enemy already guarantees that Zeb cannot do his full nuke. And we kind of arrive back at, I think, the fundamental problem with Zeb. I'm not saying it's a hate. If anything, I think again, I kind of see why Zeb could matter. But, like, just let the boy breathe. So fundamentally, the play pattern that CG listed is actually the opposite of what you're probably going to end up trying to do. Whoa. Okay, one other question. Or is it? Okay. One possible caveat here. Thrawn dispels when he fractures. In this case, there is no dispel, so you could fracture an enemy and still have them be buffed. It would mean that A, that would have to be pre-buffed during your 150 speed bonus rounds. B, I mean, again, Phoenix and Spectres, I don't think really throw around much of any dispelling. For this to really be a concern. Because there's a possibility here that, like, okay, maybe we don't get the best Zeb nuke, but maybe we still just go for the plus 50% crit damage armor ignore move, and you kind of get some Great Mother's Knights of Spirit type action. Which, I mean, I'm just going to control a dispel everywhere. Make sure that we're not going to, like... Okay, Sabine is chill on the dispel front. Hu Yang. Well, if you ever try to do this in TB, Hu Yang's Omicron rune. Ironic. Hmm. It's not the highest ratio. Like, the problem is he's a tank, so you expect his base offense to just kind of be garbage. Seems to be the way it does to go in Galaxy Heroes for most characters. This isn't entirely a rerun of Pause. But, Also, his crit chance needs bolstering. Okay. So, everyone gets out of 50 speed. Chopper dispels a pre-taunt. And then you just try to stuff somebody out of me. Chopper first, dispel. Hera second fracture. This is basically like some sort of strike team shit. And ironically, I don't know that Ezra actually does much here. Like, not that it's bad, I guess. I mean, the character fundamentally kind of can't be bad at any team, but if we're taking this, like, combo assassin type deal, Ezra is a little bit slow out of the gate. The most important thing he could add is, like, if you knew the team had, like, a savior mechanic, you would benefit from having the lock deal block. It's just like a force the issue, kill this damn character type situation. Ironically, Zeb not being a Spectre actually would stop Ezra from giving a bonus turn if you wanted to just, like, make Zeb speedless, insane, high, like, best offense and defense possible. I don't know. It's... Do I have an R8 Zeb? I don't remember. Like, what does this even look like? This actually might be a better question for hot utils, to be honest. I mean, that plus 150 is like Zam Omicron levels of just like, yeah, man, you have carte blanche to do whatever amount you want, and you'll still just outspeed most teams. But that being said, okay, I stopped the relics I would press up once I became a doubter. I mean, in this pretense, you actually could just run 3x offense because you're kind of trying to finish the fight before it starts. But let's see. Weight, speed exists, crit chance exists, physical damage and defense, all the way up. Try this on for size. So it's giving almost 8,000 damage plus not that much armor. I think I'm gonna have to wait the shit out of this. Depending on how much of an issue the crit chance is. The crit chance might be the #1 issue. Is there anyone... I mean, Sabine gives it to herself. I don't think she provides to anyone else. Yeah. Man, if this just shared out. Ah. Close. I'm not forgetting any claws. I'm sure. Alright, it's gonna be a tricky character to mod. I mean, I'm just gonna start bumping up numbers and seeing what hits. Yeah, we're already near a wall. I figured, but... Is there any world where... Okay, 67. Hold the range. Like, does the team... Like, Chopper has buffs on basic, but they're nowhere near reliable. Yeah, he gives that offense up and I like crit chance up. I mean, the team is plug and play friendly. That I guess you could theoretically, you can figure out a character that can cheat out extra buffs or whatever. It could theoretically work out that way, but that seems like a narrow ask. You would need like Ezra passing a bonus turn to a Jedi Spectre type shit. If Sabine was, then she could. Couldn't they just like give her team crit chance up just to like continue her? Just all Sabines just give all allies crit chance up. I am not sure I have the mods to do this. I haven't even put in a speed target yet. I mean, right now it's 202, so this is a 352 Zeb. Man, the needing crit chance and not really having a clear way to grab it from your team is... I mean, there are Datacron tests that could maybe do that job for you, but fuck, man. There's a possibility where I just double down on my opinion that the defense to offense conversion isn't actually all that good, and so we just ease the strain here a little bit. You know, bring it where you got it, but worry about the crit chance first. The fact that we get 50% crit chance also creates an argument that we should be on offense that I think. Or sorry, that we get 50% crit damage. Which means we're more like... Actually, it's not going to be 95. It's going to be less. That bad, huh? Okay, the offense can't be the bottleneck here. It's got to be the armor. There's no way. Like, this is only a 3% secondary diamond. I guess maybe. Yeah, it appears that I'm stuck here. I don't know. I'm still skeptical enough that I don't know if I'm gonna farm mod sets for this immediately. I mean, more or less, I've got mods that are kind of right. I've got offense, crit chance, defense. speed mods. But man, the wrinkle of needing 34% crit chance on mods is 35 actually. It's not clear we need it here, and it seems it's a question of how much damage the team has. This is basically just a team trying to assassinate a character before a match start in my eyes. And I'm not sure that they're all that capable. I think it's riding on Huyang. This team just doesn't have that many damage buffs for anyone. I think it's going to take multiple characters just to kill one person. The strongest ally and the weakest ally gain advantage. So Zeb is the strongest ally. He gains advantage. We get rid of this stat. Rating's pretty good. I searched for the wrong term. I type in a bunch of unreasonable numbers. And then Potty immediately tells me to fuck off because I'm still trying to push things a little bit too far. So cutting out crit chance entirely still isn't making it much easier. For some reason. Is this just kind of the extent? I find it really hard to believe that it is. Let's reread Huyang, actually, and Sabine. Sabine is very selfish. I don't think Sabine's going to offer any revelations here, but let's go back through Huyang for sure. Those damage are going to be exposed to them on the basic. Mass assist seems to be kind of the... Well, let's see. Deal physical damage to target enemy and Spectre allies, gain speed up for 1 turn, deal an additional instance of damage for each other light side droid ally. So if Huyang is on damage job, we're going to be leading with this ability. And the speed up would technically allow you to cheat down on Zeb speed. And then try to bring him up a speed up. The problem is the speed up is being applied after Huyang takes a turn, which means that it's the speed delta between when you apply the speed up and Zeb actually, right? It's not match start. 0% turn meter, Zeb gets speed up. Okay. Advantage and offense up. So gives tenacity up, but not defense up. Let's say droid inspector allies. That's just if you don't have a full team. The biggest difference between Huyang and Zeb, in my opinion, here is Zeb's ability to ignore armor. Like, Huyang's numbers are just probably better, but, you know, defense and crush streams, as Paz has well known. See, Zeb's not a Spectre, so he doesn't get this shit. He also does not get Jedi lessons, seeing as he is not a Jedi. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is just gonna take some like number testing, just straight up is like, okay, what's the matchup I'm interested in? What opener can I come up with to try to just like snowball? Can I set up a kill sequence against X character or Y character type shit? I do imagine Chopper will have to be fastest, and then Hera, I imagine second fastest, and then yeah, it just depends on who the focus of the damage output is. See, this is so weird though. So if cutting crit chance out of the budget doesn't actually fix issues, then we're actually almost incentivized to just not worry about it. We're just kind of at the extent of what my secondaries are capable of putting out. Okay, what if we just leave this be and crank that? That's kind of the question, right? 8800 was the number before. Yeah, so this is the advantage builder end. We cut out crit chance so we can run defense. Offense is really going to get much higher. Sounds like my current is about 70. And for how, I don't know the exact like math off the top on like the defense to offense conversion goes, but like let's say I can lower it to 87 or minus 100 offense, but like maybe extra defense or something. Any? No, 71. Anyone? Yeah, like you can start making trade offs that way. Interesting. Well, this means that characters like them can now officially roll for mods with 3x offense. Or they just give them advantage and say, go get them, champ. Percent offense, flat offense, percent defense. No, but that's protection primary. Yeah, it's just not really the type of mod that's been like hotly in demand until now. Yeah, this is like the prospect. Literally, this is the prospect. Gamer luck abuse, if I even have mats. Stop fucking rolling speed. Maybe not. I'm not that desperate. Was that the mat? Did it just like not show up in chops? Shop search? Wonder if the math works on defense primary. Oh, like defense primary, high offense secondary? That's a good ass point. I mean, I promise you I don't have that. Well, not yet. Well, not even yet. Yep. If Zeb ends up being the guy that is actually wants to see if his defense offense is bugged like the Datacron. Is that where it works off of resistance rather than armorism? If I remember correct. Yeah. Well, not every character has worse resistance than defense. I still am very much worried though Again, the Datacron is kind of like the level of what's considered reasonable, and this is just so much below that, that honestly investing in defense, the returns might not be as big as it sounds. But again, the kind of the hope here is, if we're armor ignoring, which would require a matchup where they're pre-buffed and blah blah blah, but if we're armor ignoring, then any gains directly translate to results, is the hope. Can we go math primaries? Okay. I'm not gonna remember. Just fair warning. What was I looking for? Interesting. It's a faction with its own unique mod set. I mean, this technically applies for Hu Yang too, right? You can make, well, but Hu Yang's, if he gives himself advantage, it doesn't matter unless you Ezra swap back or swap back with someone else. Hmm. By the way, there is a world where Hera doesn't actually have to go fracture first. Like maybe the TM removal just doesn't matter at that point, that you would rather just, well, but what I'm about to say is actually like way too conditional, I think. Because you gain, one person randomly gains tenacity up and defense up for enemy TM being manipulated, which we actually do have because of Chopper. But it's resistible. It would only be to one person, that like Hera locking it in. What does Hera's kit say again? Exactly. We can give it to one person, right? The perfect defense. Which again, I'm concerned is actually not going to be that big of a damage boost. Oh, but she boosts offense as well. No. Okay. Maybe this is the play. Maybe fuck Fracture. Well, again, matchup dependent. Maybe the TM reset matters in some cases, right? But by the way, can I just say that it's actually like really fucking cool flavor that more or less they managed to capture the idea of like, you're going off on a rogue mission, the fracture target is the mission objective, and like if you get the job done, things like the idea that everyone's Terminator resets, that it's like the flavor of, oh, it's an acceptable mission as long as you get results done. That's admirable flavor. I think that's cool. But unfortunately, this might actually be the optimal opener if it's just like trying to juice as much power into an armor ignoring character as possible. It might just be, we give Zeb 10% offense, we give Zeb perfect defense. He's not a Spectre ally! I fucking hate it here. Huh. Maybe it's Hu Yang. I don't know. It's probably Hu Yang then. But the boy is armor vulnerable. Armor dependent. Yeah, there's, I mean, this is like trying to project BT1 when BT1 got revealed, right? And it's just like, this is numbers lands. This is like, we have the setup, the table is set, we have the 150 bonus speed and a character that can dispel and go first. It's all table setting. It's really just a question of like, yeah, is this the fabled stat that just like, yeah, you just ignore 40% of their armor? Or is this 120 armor penetration gaining 40% of 120? Like, basically might as well not exist. Because if this is the true stat, then suddenly the gap between Zeb and Hu Yang is less. Right? Zeb functionally gains nothing from this clause, because he has 100%. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I like in a weird way. I think this team, even if this team isn't like postable, which well, I won't say it's not postable, but does the chopper like taunt first? And like do we even like have like any real dispels to drafts? Volcrum doesn't have a dispel. Yeah, like you post a shit on defense, they run a pre-taunt. You're just gonna hit that pre-taunt. Which like okay, honestly, if the hope is just well, let me test the game while we're talking. If the hope is just that, yeah, I'm just gonna like kill your pre-tank and take some banners, maybe. Why am I doing this here? Auto doesn't necessarily indicate defense behavior, but just to check, he does do taunt there. I could search for footage of a counter against Phoenix. YouTube. What's a matchup that isn't Tuscans? Wampa versus Phoenix? Perhaps? Why is it on? Okay. See, Chopper taunts here, but there isn't technically a buff. Well, he has a buff, but I don't know if the AI distinguishes between is dispellable or not. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is just true that he just always taunts. Am I outside of Dathmere? I think I am. Oh, no, there is a chopper here, right? I think. I don't remember or if it matters which. I don't think it does. It's just Captain Rex and Chopper and Kanan and Ezra and the annoying type. Yeah, because Kanan taunts and Chopper taunts. I'm like 99% of this, but we can visually confirm it, I guess. was trying to say this the wave too, but yeah, I spent way too many buttons in wave 1, but oh well. Alright. The boy wonder. Yep, it's all first. As advertised. So, like, on defensively, he's a pre-taunt, but fundamentally, this faction is being a weird cobbled piece of, like, half of it is OG Old Phoenix, half of it is, like, new characters that have yet to have their actual team released. They don't really have, like, the full design cohesive game plan. But I mean, to be honest, like, part of the issue here is that as much as I talk about dispels everywhere nowadays, Phoenix is actually, like, classically, traditionally, one of the teams that this was always kind of their biggest issue, is they actually really lacked dispel tools. Even with Captain Rex getting added, they still really don't have that many dispels. So, yeah. That appears to still be the case. So yeah, I, like, again, if your goal is just, like, I zerg down your tank and, like, make you hate life that you -3 banners or whatever, maybe that's in the cards, but I imagine they're probably just going to be an offense if they matter anywhere. And yeah, I think this is really just going to be a matter of testing damage output over the next... Well, it's not going to be this week, because nobody will have the character. I guess you could run the lead. And just, like, see what Zeb and Huyang do with her at 3-star, because the lead doesn't scale with her stars or anything. So maybe it actually could be tested, but... Also, I don't even know if I have the relic materials to even try everything, or anything. I am thoroughly drained. I don't know. Let's see. Also, I think I actually might be pretty decent in Conquest. 150 speed preload, and that's 150 speed that cannot be reduced by fatigue. Kind of funny to say, but yeah, that might not be bad. Let's keep that in mind. Anyway, I'm out of here. Sorry I have not been around too much, but it's been a not ideal week. Not a bad way, but just very off kilter. Will hopefully be pretty normal come next week. Well, yeah, I'm out of here. Enjoy your holiday weekend. Take care. Peace.